Yo, what up? My name is Don, and just recently, Diablo 4's Season 5 started. It's been up for just under a week, and as always, people are asking what is the best way to level. So, with the addition of the new event, Infernal Hordes, I wanted to discuss that as well as just go over some general tips and tricks on the best way to go about leveling. So, with that being said, let's hop right in. All right, so because it's the start of the season, so many people are asking what is the best way to level, and already there are guides out on YouTube as well as the general bunch of guide websites on how to go about leveling and how to separate certain sections of levels into certain content. But I really think with the direction that Blizzard is taking, especially with the total direction change of season 4, season 5 is only a complement to the direction of season 4. And I just think that, like, with the addition of Infernal Hordes, for example, the new event, there are a plethora of ways to level. Previously, we had the addition of the pit, which is another great way to level, and it all really ties together. So there are so many ways to level in the game, especially if you start out by skipping the campaign, which you should by now, unless you're a brand new player. That's fair, of course. But you can immediately choose tier 1 or 2 after skipping the campaign, and you should choose tier 2 because, of course, there is a big benefit to the experience bonus that you're going to gain from World Tier 1, where you get just base experience, no bonus experience, into World Tier 2, which you can choose right off the bat. You're going to be netting yourself a plus 50% experience bonus. So that's pretty awesome. And you can do that straight from level 1. And also, if whether you choose World Tier 1 or World Tier 2, you can immediately go into doing Hell Tides, which will zoom you right on up to about your mid 40s quite easily if you just keep at it. Don't forget, while you're leveling, you can also, if you are a solo player or in a group, you can equip an incense and later on in the game equip a tier 2 incense for that 8% experience bonus. But it's going to start out as a 5% experience bonus for the incense, as well as equipping an elixir for an additional 5% to net you that 10% experience bonus for a total now of 60% experience bonus from just choosing tier 1. Now, there are a lot of people that always push the envelope on how fast they can get things done. So I've already seen, threads and Reddit posts and et cetera, about people pushing into tier 3 at level, 30 or mid 20s. And this is a level 50 capstone dungeon, but because there's so much player power rewarded back into the player's hands from season 4 through things like the tempering system and the masterworking system now in the game for uniques and tempering, which you can do not to uniques, but to legendaries and even rares. And I haven't tried it on a blue item, but the point being is that you can equip so much extra power to help you blast through these levels, and it really does help you in the early tiers in the tier 1 and 2 when the monsters aren't really that much of a threat and that much of a danger to you. So because people are finishing the capstone dungeon, which is supposed to be a level 50 capstone dungeon, at levels 30s and even into the mid 20s, especially if they're playing in a group setting, and especially if they're a good player who's playing a ranged player, could be a rogue or it could be a sorceress or sorcerer. Especially fire sorks right now. Can we talk about them because they're absolutely wild? I play a barb, so when I'm on my barb, fire sorks are just blasting the whole screen, and I feel like I can't even get to the mobs in time. But anyways, um, when you get up to World Tier 3, you're going to be adding an additional 100% onto that experience bonus. Sorry, 150% experience bonus total. So we go up from 50% to 150% experience bonus total just for moving world tiers. And of course, if you can jump right into Hell Tides, or as soon as you get into World Tier 3, you're going to open up Infernal Hordes as long as you've done the prerequisite quest, which, if I remember correctly, is called Eye of the Enemy. Now, once you open up the Infernal Hordes, this is going to basically let you do a specific amount of waves. I believe it starts out at 6. You get to do 6 waves off the bat, fighting, eventually fighting the Fell Council. This is basically like a test of might, like a kind of survival, um, you know, waves of survival type event, which I think is a lot of fun. I honestly have so much fun from it. And even though I'm a solo player, it's the one event in the game where I get this very overwhelming feeling that like there's a lot of mobs on the screen. I don't want to say too many because that's not a bad thing. It feels like I'm just fighting hordes and hordes and hordes of enemies, and that really feels good in Diablo. So I think that this event really hit the nail on the head for how many mobs to have in it and the pacing of it. Now, the one thing that I think can be improved as you go through the Infernal Horde is, at the end of a wave, everything feels good until you have to choose the boons and the banes. The boons and the banes, I feel like they played it a little safe, and I want them to be a little more drastic because it just would add to the chaotic vibe of fighting in the waves themselves. I think that if the choices were just a little bit more dire as far as the buff and the handicap that they apply to you, it would make the choices so much more interesting because right now, after having played Infernal Hordes or having done them a handful of times, there seems to be a clear path that I kind of gravitate towards for maximizing. And I guess there's always going to be a strategy for maximizing how many ether events that you can spawn because that is the whole point of it. The waves are timed and you get more time per wave, and so you want to maximize that time and be able to spawn as many events, ether events as possible to gather as much ether as possible. Because at the end, you get a choice of three chests, whether you're going to open up a materials chest, an items chest, or the gold chest. In my opinion, you should really be opening up that materials chest, especially as you're leveling, because this is going to be your biggest source of gaining gem fragments. And if you want to be able to enter World Tier 4 as early as you entered World Tier 3, if that's your goal, you're going to want to make sure that your resistances are up. Otherwise, you're just going to get absolutely rocked no matter how much damage you can do as soon as a mob breathes on you. So, as you're running the Infernal Hordes, one of the main tips that I say is to choose that materials chest over and over and over again because not only can you get gem fragments, which are super important, but other people are saying, and I haven't got to these levels yet, but they're saying if you can get to tier 6, 7, or 8, it can pretty much make doing the pit like a moot point because you're going to get other materials like Stygian, Ingolith, and Neth Iron, as well as find Forgotten Souls and Scattered Prisms for socking your items in the materials chest. So they're super valuable. Honestly, they're worth their weight in gold. And I would say just ignore the gold chest other than using it for your leftover ether. So while there is improvement for the boons and the banes, another little tip is that the best ones are going to be the ones that help ether events spawn faster. So that's going to be things like the spires pulling in enemies faster, or the hellborns being spawned, because when the hellborns spawn and they hunt you, it's kind of like a self-feeding process. So, for example, when they spawn and you kill them, they're going to add a lot to the bar that's going to fill to spawn another ether event. And eventually, what happens is as you're killing mobs and as you're killing these Hellborn, just more and more and more start spawning. So, the faster that you can get rid of all the mobs in a level, the more that ether events are going to spawn if you get lucky enough to get that boon. So, I would say choose that one every time. Now, as far as where to get the Infernal Horde compasses, aka the sigils, you can find them from a plethora of places, including Helltide chests, Nightmare dungeons, the Pit, and you can get them from Whisper caches as well. You can also craft them at the Occultist with Sigil Powder and Forgotten Souls, but this way is quite expensive. So if you end up getting them from other sources, other free sources that benefit you in other ways, like Whisper caches, which is going to give you a lot of experience and gold, and I do recommend doing those, especially if you're doing Hell Tides to level up. You can just focus on the one zone that has all of the whispers in it, because Blizzard has made it now that only one zone in the Helltide has the whispers, and you're always going to get 10 whispers. So when you're doing Helltide, which is on 24/7, you can always get 10 whispers, run over to the tree every time, get your reward, get the extra XP, and have a chance of also getting those Infernal Horde compasses. You can upgrade the Infernal Horde compasses with Abyssal Scrolls, which can drop from the materials chest in the Infernal Horde itself. So be sure to be choosing that materials chest for more than just the gems. And the Infernal Hordes are just a great source for XP as soon as you can get into them. The earlier you can get into them, and the more that you can push your world tier, they basically assist you getting into world tier with how many gem fragments they're going to give you, and with the mob density and how quickly you can farm them. And then when you don't have any Infernal Horde compasses, you can just jump right back into the Helltide. It is such a good loop of grinding XP out. The only thing you really need to do to make it even better is just play in a group, so you get that doubled group experience. And being around another player 24/7, you're going to get the that experience bonus as well. So some people are reporting that they've leveled from 90 to 100 in a few hours. And again, this is probably because they're in groups and having others around and in your party. When you do that, it's going to give you an additional XP buff on top of the three already available, which are going to be to have an incense on. And by the time you are higher levels, you're going to be making tier 2 of these items. So you're going to have an incense on, which is going to give you 8% XP. You're going to have a tier 2 elixir, which is going to give you 8% XP. And you're going to have an anti-venom elixir for another 8% experience. So that is a whole lot of experience it adds up to in the end. And no wonder that people are blazing through these levels. Right now, the game feels absolutely awesome. So, really, what is the best way to level? I would say to get into Helltides right away, and get the quest done, Eye of the Enemy, so that you can open up um, Infernal Hordes when you get into World Tier 3. Remember to temper your items while you're in World Tier 2, so that you can add a lot of power to your character, so that doing the capstone dungeon, the level 50 capstone dungeon, is much easier than, you won't be doing it at 50, you'll be doing it at mid 30, mid 40, mid 30, or even sooner. And then again, once you get into World Tier 3, it's, to the races with the experience grind. So that really is the best way to level. And if this video helped you, definitely drop a comment down below, leave a like, and as always, please do subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.